Good morning and welcome to Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion with me, Pastor Amanda. It is a rainy Thursday morning and we're going to do a little bit of diving further into Hosea. One thing about Hosea that is interesting is that he can take the same topic, repeat it over and over in new ways, and just make it sound worse and worse. And so we're going to kind of hear the same thing we've been hearing time in and time out. But as I have learned as a pastor, they say not until you say it 100 times will someone listen. And the reality is we're only on chapter 10. So 10 times over, we would need to say this until the people finally listen to what Hosea is saying. So, as he again reminds the people that they were once a luxuriant vine, he calls them. As Israel was this fruit of God's choosing, and it was nourishing, it was flourishing, it was just it yielded fruit that provided and was just, wonderful. The more the fruit increased, the more altars were built. And as his country improved, he improved his pillars. And then, of course, it doesn't take long. Verse 2 kind of says, but their heart is false, and now they must bear their guilt. So we see how, it's like when times are good, people start to wander away from God. And even though God's like, I understand a little wandering happens, but the thing is that they just kept going further and further away from God in their wandering. And their sin now covers guilt because it's built upon itself and built upon itself. Their altars are no longer worthy to be altars of God because they have misused them. Their worship is inappropriate. It's no longer doing what it was supposed to do. He says in verse 3, for now they will say, we have no king, for we do not fear the Lord. And commentators have had different things to say about this. There's this kind of predicting that they won't have a king. But the reality is from the very beginning, God wanted to be their king. So they're just again denying God, their Lord, as the one who they serve, who their hearts belong to. And so of course they have no king because they're not following God's ways. He again reminds them that they utter mere words with empty oaths, that they make their covenants. And then this is the reason they're having so much litigation. It says litigation springs up like poison weeds in the furrows of the fields. He's just so wonderful metaphors there. And he's like, because your yes is not a yes and your no is not a no, you find yourselves in such horrible places that now you're having to get other people involved. You're triangulating. You can't even take care of your own problems together because you're unwilling to speak truth. Because if you speak truth, then you can take care of things between each other. But he's just like, it's getting out of hand. The weeds are getting out of hand, he says. The people shall mourn for all that is happening. So, yet they're gonna, isn't that interesting? They're gonna mourn for it, but they're still not gonna make the changes that are needed. And that speaks a lot. How many times do we see things going downhill, but it's better to just go downhill than to make the changes to make things better? Do the blame game, blame it on somebody for all the things that are going wrong and never doing anything to change or make a difference. Then, he just continues to say, no, it won't even just be civil war that's going to happen. You're going to experience foreign invasion. So not only is there going to be a problem among your people, but foreigners are going to be able to come in and take you over because you've gone so far astray. It says, thorn and thistle shall grow on your altars. And he says this, they shall say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. They're going to get themselves into such a situation that they're going to beg to not have, to beg to die almost is what he's saying. It's going to be horrible. Hosea really knows how to just lay it on thick. There will be punishment, and it will be double for their iniquity, we find out in verse 10. And then we have this moment of breath that happens in the middle here. And in verse 11, it's like this little reminder. Ephraim was a trained heifer that loved to thresh, and I spared her fair neck. And then, but I will make Ephraim break the ground. Judah must plow, Jacob must harrow. Sow for yourselves righteousness, reap steadfast love, break up the fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, that he may come and rain righteousness upon you. So we have just this little breath of a reminder. Remember who you are deep down. You are the one I love. I trained you. You followed my word. I could protect you, and now you have to return to doing all that hard work. But he goes, there's hard work, but if you start that hard work, that if you sow righteousness, if you reap steadfast, if you break your fallow ground, there's an opportunity for us to have righteous relationship again. So there's just this breath of like, come back to me, come back to me. And yet, so here's where then, Hosea can't stay there very long. And then in verse 13, he goes back, but you plowed wickedness, you reaped injustice, and you've eaten fruit of lies, because you trusted in your own power and in the multitude of your warriors. So again, he's saying, you have all the tools that you need. You have all of the opportunities to do what will make things better, and yet you keep choosing to do what is wrong. And he's just trying to really just confront the people that, it's that moment, like, come on, can't you see what's happening here? And so he again, he talks about the destruction that's going to happen. He speaks about, mothers being dashed into pieces with their children. I mean, he just gets down into the muck of how horrible things are going because people have not returned to God. Their hearts are not there. Maybe their words are. Maybe it looks like it from the outside, the way they're worshiping, but their actions are not showing that they are following God. And that gives us something to think about. I don't need to go deeply into it, but it has to be an intentional internal transformation that is congruent with our external actions and fruits and everything. They have to go together. Your heart and your actions all have to come from the same place. It can't be you're nice one day and then talking bad about somebody the next day. It really has to be heart and intention and actions all come together. And so we see Hosea just crying out to the people, here is a way. Here is a way, and God is ready to forgive right now. God's ready to call you back. But if you don't, there is punishment. There is consequences for actions. And so it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but Hosea is going to keep us going here for all into next week. So once again, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you can see where God is calling you to transformation. And I thank you for joining me, Pastor Amanda, with Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend.